Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Jace Loves Strength. Today, we're taking the next step toward launching the first version of those Strongman World Rankings. Now, I'm not revealing the final rankings yet. There's still work to be done. So let me say that again before somebody starts yelling at me in the comments. These are not the final provisional rankings. And I want you to hear what I just said. These are not the final provisional rankings. So we haven't even gotten to the provisional ranking yet. So once we get to there, I still don't want to hear you yelling. I'm trying to be as fair and objective as possible, and to remove all ambiguity and to remove all guesswork. The system, the algorithm that I have developed, it's going to get better and better and better as we go on. So really, you could look at it as the second time that we release the world rankings. That's when they'll really, in my opinion, be official. Up till then, there's still a little bit of subjectivity, a little bit of bias, a little bit of seeding that's in this. I've tried my best to eliminate it and avoid it as much as possible, but there's no perfect system to get that initial catalog out there. So anyway, again, these will not be the final provisional rankings. What we will be revealing in this video is the initial group of 40 athletes who have made the provisional rankings pool, along with their provisional seed strength. So what this means is they're not going to be ranked 1 through 40, because that's how many we're going with, 40 rankings. They're not going to be ranked in order of how the rankings are going to come out when we say, here's their provisional listing. Instead, this is just going to show you what their provisional athlete strength value is. It'll be like an initial seed key that will be fed to the algorithm that will help determine where they ultimately wind up. All right, so you can think of this as a starting grid before the race. Okay. You could think of this as, to kind of think about that, you could think of this as NASCAR, right? And this is them running their qualifier laps to determine where they're going to start in that race. But you have to actually run the race to see where they finish. Okay. So this is going to tell us where each athlete begins based on their recent contest resume, contest prestige, and the available data. But again, not the final order, guys. This weekend is when I'm going to try to get that out for you. We're going to run the athletes through the full ranking algorithm, and then we will see how much this provisional seed strength changes between now and the rankings. And honestly, this is one of the things that I'm most interested in seeing. I want to see how we go from rankings to this provisional seed strength and see how that checks out. So before we do this, I want to explain the reason that we even need a provisional seed list. It's actually pretty simple when you think about it. So once these rankings are established, a strength of schedule can be calculated using the rankings themselves. So if an athlete competes against the number 1 guy in the world, the number 4 guy in the world, and the number 12 guy in the world, that tells us something about the strength of field. But for the very first release, we don't have any previous rankings to use, right? There isn't anyone ranked 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 12th. So that is where this athlete strength value comes in. This value is not meant to be the final ranking score. It's a provisional estimate of how strong an athlete's recent resume looks before the full ranking algorithm is applied. Hopefully that makes sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the athlete pool. And the provisional pool starts with athletes from the 4 most recent elite contests: the 2026 World's Strongest Man, the 2026 Arnold Strongman Classic, the 2025 Rogue Invitational, the 2025 Strongest Man on Earth. That got us most of the way to 40 athletes. Most of the way. After that, we filled out the rest of the field using recent results from other meaningful contests. You might want to know what those contests are, and I promise you transparency. So we're looking at Giants Live events, championship tier shows, recognized international events, major national championships, and then supplementary international and national contests. I'll also let you know that we did remove a few athletes who may absolutely belong in the conversation, but they simply did not have a large enough sample size for this first release. So if you haven't competed more than 2 times in a competition that we're going to recognize here, you didn't make the initial provisional rankings. You got to have a larger sample size before we can include you. So again, being left off this first provisional pool does not mean that someone is not good enough. It means we didn't have enough recent qualifying data to responsibly include them in this first version. Hopefully that makes sense. Without further ado, let's go ahead and bring the spreadsheet up for you guys here. And we'll talk a little bit about the guys that are here. So the first thing, I want to explain the contest scoring so you know how we even got to these strength values that you're looking at. So here's the basic idea behind the scoring. Bigger contests are worth more. Hopefully that you guys don't find that too controversial. And so we're considering the 4 big ones from the last year as the creme de la creme, okay? The premier event. So we've got the World's Strongest Man, we've got the Arnold, we've got Rogue, and we've got the Strongest Man on Earth, which carry more weight than smaller international or national contests. Now, we still want other contests to matter, though, because activity matters, winning matters, beating good athletes matters. All of it matters. It's not just about who did what in the 4 shows that have the biggest marketing budgets. So we created tiers. And I want to go through real quick and explain some of these tiers so you understand how we got here. So the World's Strongest Man winner receives 40 points. So this is World's Strongest Man 2026 and 2025. Then second place receives 38. Third place receives 37. Then every other finalist receives 36 points. So if you didn't make the podium, but you made the final in World's Strongest Man, you get 36 points as a strength value for that contest. And then for the groups, if you finish third in your group, that's worth 34. If you finish fourth in your group, that's worth 32. And if you finished fifth in your group, dead last, you got 30. So basically, just for making it to the World's Strongest Man, you received a strength value of 30 in the World's Strongest Man. So World's Strongest Man finalists are rewarded heavily, but the winner and podium still get extra separation between them and the rest of the field. You're going to hear something kind of similar with Arnold, Rogue, and Strongest Man on Earth, except we don't have those qualifying group rounds. So it works like this. For the Arnold Strongman Classic, the Rogue Invitational, and the Strongest Man on Earth, again, first place is worth 40, second is worth 38, third is worth 36, and then from that point, it drops 1 point for each place that they finish below that, 35, 34, 33, so on and so forth. So these are the elite major contests. They sit at the very top of the scoring, and they sit right alongside World's Strongest Man. Okay. After that, we have a small step down in how we're going to weight the strength. So after we get through the major 4, then we're going to look at Giants Live events. So the major Giants Live events. So Giants Live majors are the next here. A Giants Live major win is worth 36 points. Second is worth 34. Third is worth 32. And then, like we did with the other 4 events there, every position after that drops 1 point beneath that. So these are major and meaningful contests. They're just not quite held to the same level of esteem as WSM, Arnold Classic, Rogue, and Snow. After that, we have our championship tier events. And so what I'm considering the championship tier events are events like the Strongman Champions League, the official Strongman Games, North America Strongest Man, Europe Strongest Man, Britain Strongest Man. And so for these contests, they're a slight step down below Giants Live. So first place is worth 33, second is worth 31, third is worth 29, and then again, it drops 1 point for each place that you finish beneath that. After that, we have some more contests in here. And we have our recognized international and major national. So these are still some really big and respected competitions, just not with the echelon that we just talked about. And so some examples might be the Siberian Power Show, America's Strongest Man, Australia's Strongest Man, very other credible national or international shows. And so for this tier, you're going to look at first place being worth 32, second place worth 30, third is worth 28, and then, as you can see with the pattern, 1 point you lose for each position that you finish beneath third. All right, and then we have a few more contests on the international and national scene that we had to include there to round out this field, basically. And so we've got our supplementary international and nationals. And so these are contests that I think are very legitimate, but the fields may be slightly weaker. They could be less proven. And as a result, they're simply harder to evaluate. The contests haven't been around for a long time. They're giving shine to guys who maybe haven't built that name recognition, and this is kind of the funneling system to get into the bigger shows. So I didn't want to discount these contests, but they're a little bit harder to weigh. So again, first place in these contests is worth 28, second is worth 27, third is worth 26, and then fourth would be 25, fifth 24, so on and so forth. So you go down 1 point for each position that you finish. So now that you have how much a contest is worth and how much a placement is worth, I need to tell you how we actually figured out the athlete strength value. So the formula is basically is this. We take their best 3 scores combined, and then we divide them by 3. So let's say you had a score of 40, 38, and 36 between 3 competitions. You would add those up and you would divide by 3 to get the average. In this case, it would be 38, and that would be your athlete strength value. In the event that an athlete only had 2 registered scores, and there were a couple athletes that you could see that they only had a very small sample size. You got Martins Lisis here with 2, and then you've also got, I think there's one more. Yeah, Levi Strong with 2. Everyone else had at least 3. So for those 2, I wanted to make it as fair as possible. And I didn't want to allow competing often to influence the rating so much, like, hey, you get credit for competing a lot even though you don't do well. But I also thought there should be some sort of reward for having competed often enough that we could gauge consistency. And so the modifier is that if you have fewer than 3, you have 2, and you have to have at least 2 contests to qualify. If you have 2, what we do at that point is we take your highest score, and then your lowest score, we add it twice. So let's say you had 2 scores of 40 and 38. So we would actually say you did 3 scores, 40, 38, and 38, and then divide it by 3. So that's how we handled the Martins and Levi, since they didn't have a very large sample size. All right, so with that being said, I guess it's really time for us to look at the 40 athletes who made our initial provisioning rankings pool. So again, I'll repeat something that I've said over and over and over again. I want you guys to hear this out. These are not the rankings. This is a provisional rankings pool, okay? So this is not the final ranking. This is just a seed order to help us feed to the algorithm so that we can actually get to our rankings. The full algorithm has still got to be applied. Again, I'm going to try to shoot for getting that done this coming weekend, but this will give us our first look at where everyone is starting. Again, think of this as the NASCAR. They ran their little laps to see who had the pole position, who had the best times, and see their starting order. That's what this is doing here. We will see how closely this matches our rankings once we release them. So in the meantime, let's take a look at this. So we can see the number 1 position right here is Mitchell Hooper, and his athlete strength value is 40. So basically what this means is that Hooper had at least 3 events that were worth the max number of strength value points. So a win in one of those 4 major contests. So he had enough to basically have a perfect strength value score. The second highest strength value score belonged to Rayno Nel, giving him a strength value score of 37.33. Then you have 2 guys who are tied at 37 apiece, but Lucas Hatton has more registered score, so he has more events that counted, and so that's the way we're settling ties here. If you have a tie in strength value, the athlete that competed in the most events, the most contests, the most competitions that we include in our list, a respected, highly respected competition, then that person gets the tie. Okay, so in this case, Lucas Hatton climbs above Trey Mitchell because they both have 37, but Lucas had 8 registered scores, Trey had 7. After that, we have Austin Andrade with 36.33, Evan Singleton with 36.33. So again, Austin Andrade and the T-Rex tie, but again, Austin Andrade finishes in 5th place, the T-Rex is in 6th because of the number of scores that they had from qualifying competitions. 7 for Austin, 6 for the T-Rex. Martins Lisis comes in the 7th place position with an athlete strength value of 36. Now, I'll be honest, I suspect, and I could be wrong, we'll have to see how it plays out. I suspect that when we do get to the provisional rankings, Martins will probably drop. I don't think he'll finish this high because competing often and having consistency is going to matter there. So I think Martins will probably fall back, but I don't know. I haven't ran it through the algorithm, so we're going to have to see. But at this point, Martins is a very, very high position for someone who only has 2 scores for us to consider. At that, we have Tom Stoltman coming into the 8th position at 35.67. Ondrej Fojtu is in the 9th place position with a strength value of 35.33. Hafthor Bjornsson has a 10th place finish at an athlete strength value score of 34.67 with 4 registered scores that we could count. Pavlo Kordiaka taking the 11th place with 34.33. And then we have a whole bunch of guys here tied with 34 points apiece. Bryce Johnson gets the 12th place all by himself because he has 7 registered scores. The other 3 guys who have a strength value of 34 all competed in 4 events that qualify for our pool, so they all finish in a tie for 13th place, which takes us now to the 16th place for Nick Guardione. Luke Richardson coming in at 17th place with an average athlete strength value of 33.33. Patty Haynes, 17th or 18th place for 33 strength value. 19th place, Ivar Schmockstellis at 32.67. Several guys here with 32.67, but Ivar takes that with having the most number of registered scores. After that, we have a 2-way tie for 20th place between Tristan Hoth and Andrew Flynn. Again, the same 32.67, but 5 registered scores. So that means that we are now halfway through our list of seed strength value here. Everyone below this, these are going to be the guys in the second half of the pool. So Luke Stoltman, same 32.67, but only has 4 scores that were registered to meet our criteria. That puts him in the 22nd position. Matthew Ragg in the 23rd position with 32.67, same as the other guys, but he only had 3 events that qualified, or 3 contests that qualified. After that, we go to the 24th place for Evans Nana at 32.33. Adam Ruskowski, 25th place at 32.33. James Jeffers, 26th place with a score also of 32.33. Kevin Hazelger, 32 points, gets him a 27th place athlete strength value. With the 28th highest athlete strength value, we have Wesley Derwinski at 31 points. And then we have Levi Strong at the 29th highest value at 30.67. Shane Flowers coming in at 30th in the athlete strength value with a score of 30.33. Maxime Boudreau, even 30 on his athlete strength value. Mateusz Kiliakowski gets us 29.33 in strength value, putting him number 32. At 33 is Matthias Funyuk. Same score, 29.33, but 1 less registered competition that we could look at. Then we've got Patrick Eibel at 28.67. We have Ben Glasscock at 28.33. And then we come to our final 5 athletes. Adam Bishop at 28.33 as well for 36th strength ranking of modified seed strength ranking. Cannot speak. 37th place, 28.3 for Dawid Pakulski. Same exact 28.33 there, but again, 1 less event that we could actually take a look at. Gav Bilton with a strength value of 28 puts him in 38th position. Jesper Hansen at 27.33 gets him 39th, and then bringing up the rear, the 40th person who will make our provisional rankings list when we release it is Jan Lassina at 26.33, and those are the guys who have a strength value measurement. I will provide links where you can go out and get the spreadsheet and you can actually see how many points, strength value points, each placement that they had in each contest was brought them, so that you'll be able to see that. Again, I want to keep this as transparent as possible. I don't want to hide anything from you guys. So if you look at the video description, you'll be able to find the spreadsheets. You can go out and look at it yourself. And then stay tuned. Stay tuned, because hopefully this weekend you're going to see the very first Strongman World Rankings come out with, again, the specification, the very important detail being that those will be provisional rankings, because we won't have a dedicated strength of schedule, because none of the guys were ranked before. And the way the rankings will show the strength of schedule is how you compared against other ranked competition. Since nobody was ranked, it's going to be loosely based upon the strength value. So it'll be slightly misleading and slightly less accurate than the second, third, fourth, and fifth versions that we'll build on from there. But we got to start somewhere. And so stay tuned, because we're going to try to get that out to you this coming weekend. In the meantime, you got to see the spreadsheet. You got to see how everyone did. You got to see that Mitchell Hooper basically is worth a full 40 points. Is anyone surprised by that? Is anybody surprised that Rayno Nel finished second at 37.33? I wonder how Rayno would have finished if he hadn't just did the second place at the World's Strongest Man. All of these things are interesting. But what I want to know from you guys is, leave your comments below and tell me, is there anyone that made the provisional rankings that's, or not the provisional rankings, because again, these are not the rankings. Bad Jays, bad Jays. Is there anybody who has a provisional strength value score that's higher than you expected? Lower than you expected? Is there an athlete's name that's not on here that you're like, okay, I need to see how you got this list together, because it's bonkers in my mind that fill in the blank isn't on here. And so let me know your comments. Let me know which athletes you're surprised about with their strength value score, whether it's too high, too low is what you would expect. Let me know if there's athletes that you were expecting to see that you're not seeing here. And just tell me what you think. And like I said, most importantly, stay tuned, because this weekend the rankings come out. I just wanted to give you a sneak peek. And we'll go back once the rankings are released, and we'll see how closely the rankings align to these provisional strength values, these seed keys that we're looking at. I think by and large, they'll be pretty close, but they won't be an exact match. At least I don't think they will. I will be shocked if they're an exact match, but I think they'll be somewhat close, and I'm looking very forward to comparing them when we get there. So I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Thanks again for all of your support, and we'll be seeing you soon.